Welcome to another episode. In this episode, the question is: Are humans inherently destructive, and if so, why? I'll repeat the question: Are human beings inherently destructive? If so, why? The question is right, an important question. Man has been inherently violent and he is being inherently violent even today. He is after power and money. To achieve that, he is violent, both physically and psychologically. He has always fought for resources and racial superiority from the ancient times. The root cause is ego, the me and mine. Unless we understand that the me is merely a bunch of thoughts and has no value, and violence will continue. So if he understands that me is merely a bunch of thoughts and it has no value, if he does not understand that, violence will continue. Psychology, Religion and Spirituality by James M. Nelson. Major religious traditions all value peace and oppose talking of human life. However, the religious record does not match these ideals, with many instances of violence between and within religious groups, involving both physical and psychological injury. These are quotes from various people referenced there. This anomaly has been remarked upon for many years by critics of religion and has recently become a target of psychological investigation. The topic of violence and religion also includes the problem of secular violence directed against religious individuals. Religious people who die as a result of anti-religious violence may be victims who have no choice or martyrs. Those who choose to die rather than give up their religious commitment under coercion. René Girard. This is by quotes again, as I told you. All these are quotes from these people. René Girard argues that violence is not an aberration but a fundamental human problem caused by our tendency towards imitation or mimesis. And religious practices actually work to prevent violence. In this view, violence begins with what Girard calls accusative mimesis or mimetic desire. This occurs when we identify with others and seek to emulate them by copying their desires, polarizing individuals, and putting them in competition for desired objects. This creates a double bind in which we are both imitators and rivals, leading to conflictual mimesis, where we focus on defeating our adversary at any cost. This process leads to escalating vengeance and violence. As we copy our adversary, we become more like them, a mimetic double, although because of polarization, we see ourselves as different and blame the other for escalating the competition and violence. So, we imitate the violent people, we also become violent, we copy them, and then we start blaming the others for the violence. We copy the adversary. This is a psychological analysis. The whole thing is a quote from James M. Nelson from his book Psychology, Religion and Spirituality. So we have gone through that, why religion which preaches peace is always violent. Next we will see the philosophical side of this, Philosophy of Race by Naomi Zak. In its heyday, such race thinking was closely allied to the perspective of biological determinism and inevitable Darwinian conflict. This idea of the survival of the fittest race posited races as warring competitors for resources and honor, and it meant that racial difference determined social political destiny. Grant emphasized the connection between violence and race in referring to the World War I. In his book Introduction, he refers like that. The laws of nature operate with the same relentless and unchanging force in the human affairs as in the phenomena of inanimate nature. And the basis of government of man is now and always has been and always will be force and not sentiment, a truth demonstrated anew by the present world conflagration. The deeply racist Nazi ideology about Jews during World War II was in keeping with Grant's Northern European chauvinism, because Jews were considered Semites, a distinct non-white race, and Nazi propaganda portrayed Jews as both degenerated and dangerous. On a broader historical scale, moral worth was an integral part of official justifications for colonialism that included enslavement, genocide, and material exploitation of Africans, Asians, and indigenous Americans and Australians. While it is indisputable that the ideas of human racial difference have historically been matters of life and death, and there are certainly have been physical and cultural differences among the races. So next we will see this again a philosophical aspect from J. Krishnamurti, Beyond Violence on Education and Talks in Europe. What is actually taking place in the world? Utter chaos, disorder, violence, and extreme forms of brutality, riots ending up in war by nature through heredity, through so-called evolution. We have brought about this violence in ourselves. That is a fact. We are violent human beings. There are 1,000 explanations why we are violent. We will not indulge in explanations. The source of violence is the me, the ego, the self, which expresses itself in so many ways. In division, in trying to become or be somebody, which divides itself as the me and the not me, as the unconscious and the conscious. The me that identifies with the family or not with family, with the community or not with community, and so on. It is like a stone dropped in a lake. The waves spread and spread. At the center is the me. As long as the me survives in any form, very subtly or grossly, there must be violence. Every form of conflict is violence. Not only the psychological conflict within the skin, but also outwardly in our relationships with other human beings, with society, and sorrow. It seems to me is one of the most complex and difficult problems. The very complexity of it needs to be approached very simply. The violence we have inherited from the animal, this aggression, this domination, with a desire for power, position, and the urge to fulfill. Our brain structure, which we have inherited from the animal, is itself the product of evolution. Its function is not only to be self-protective, but also to be aggressive, to be violent, to be very dominating, thinking in terms of possession, prestige, with all of which you are all quite familiar. If you examine it very carefully, you will see that the desire for power in its very nature is the process of enclosure. Each one is seeking his own possession, his own security, and as long as that motive exists, society must be built on isolating process. Where there is a search for power, there is a process of isolation, and that which is isolated is bound to create conflict. That is exactly what is happening throughout the world. Each group is seeking power and thereby isolating itself. And this is the process of nationalism, of patriotism, ultimately leading to the war and destruction. Every society has three stages or hierarchies: the high, the middle, the low. The high being the aristocracy, the rich people, the clever people, and the middle class, who are always working, and the laborer. Now each is in battle with the other. The middle wants to get to the top and bring about a revolution, and then when they get to the top, they hold on to their positions, their prestige, their welfare, their fortunes, and again the new middle class tries to come to the top. The low trying to reach the middle, and the middle trying to reach the top. This is the battle going on all the time throughout the society and in all cultures. The middle says, I am going to get to the top and revolutionize the things. And when it gets to the top, you see what it does. It knows how to control people through the thought, through torture, through killing, through destruction, through fear. So through destruction, you can never produce anything. But if you understand the whole process of disorder and destruction, if you study it, not only outwardly but in yourself, then out of understanding, care and affection, love, out of that comes a totally different order. But if you do not understand, if you merely revolt, it is the same pattern repeated again and again. Because we human beings are always the same. You know, it is not like a house that can be pulled down and a new house built. Human beings are not made that way because human beings are outwardly educated, cultured, clever, but inwardly they are violent. Unless animal instinct is fundamentally changed, whatever the outward circumstances are, the inward always overcomes the outer. So, from J. Krishnamurti, what he says, you can understand man is by nature violent. He is evolved from animal. He is by nature violent, aggressive. He wants to keep his position and power. He wants to grow up. A lower class wants to become middle class wants to become the upper class. And he thinks once he is in the upper class, he can revolutionize the things. But once he reaches there, he understands the power of the thought and how he can manipulate and control others. So through violence, torture and propaganda, he wants to keep that position and grow up. He never does good for others. This has been repeated again and again. So as long as the human being is violent inwardly, outwardly, things will be violent only. Lastly, we will see about Tao, a quote from Tao. Listen up. If you want to be a leader who is in touch with Tao, never use violence to achieve your goals. Every act of violence backfires. An army on the move leaves a trail of tears, and a military victory always lies in ruins. Listen up. If you want to be a leader who is in touch with Tao, never use violence to achieve your goals. Every act of violence backfires. An army on the move leaves a trail of tears, and the military victory always lies in ruins. We should understand that, all of us, and we should shun violence. So with this, we will end this episode. Stay with me for another episode. Thank you.